We're going to call to order the Monday, May 20th, 2024 Jersey Shore Area School District Board of School Directors meeting to order. Can I have a call, please, Mr. Enders?
Mr. Allen.
Present.
Mr. Enders.
Present.
Calhoun.
Here.
Ms. Edwards.
Here.
Mr. McDonald.
Here.
Mrs. Peters.
Here.
Mr. Furman.
Here.
Mrs. Thomas.
Here.
Mrs. Semley.
Here.
All my members present.
Next, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance.
I'm going to call forward representatives of the class of 2024, in that they are Jocelyn McCracken, Caitlin Herman, Matt Fravel, Rahel Hartman, and Celia Shamori to lead us in the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hold on. Don't leave yet. Dr. Rosenbach's going to get your picture. Thank you all so much for coming. Enjoy the last 5 days of school.
5 days. Really?
Also, before you guys continue, we wanted to just thank you all for allowing and approving us to do the Remembrance Garden. It really does mean a lot to us. Although we couldn't finish it due to PCT schedules, we are really looking forward to next spring to come back and complete that for everyone to use, so thank you.
Thank you.
We'd also like to thank Leonard Block and his vendors. They also had donated all of the pavers for us, so we didn't have to pay any money for that. So we were very grateful for them. And then we'd also like to recognize the Dog Pound Coffee Shop as well as the Barges family because they donated a large amount of money to us as well. So with that, we were able to update Lindsay Entz's memorial site, and we actually did that today. So if you can stop by and look at that, it looks really nice, and we're really happy with that. And then also, we'd like to thank Mr. Armbruster for everything and all the support throughout this school year. We love him, so thank you.
Thank you for sharing all of that. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next, we will have approval of the minutes from April 8th and April 22nd meetings. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Any questions or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say aye. Motion passes. Approval of the treasurer's report from April 2024 and the investment report. Can I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or concerns?
I just want to let the board know, we do have an investment maturing on Thursday, $1 million CD. We will be looking reinvesting that next week.
Thank you. Any other questions or concerns?
Ben, are the rates holding steady?
We have a quote out right now for rates, so next week when we get them, keep an eye. The last investment that we did, they seemed to be a little steadier. They still are upside down. We did I believe a 9-month that's on the report was higher than the we actually split that one and did a $2.5 million investment.
Any other questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say aye. Motion passes. Approval of the bills. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Any questions or concerns? Absolutely.
Bills are pretty normal this month. Sugar Valley Charter Schools April bill was $114,359.56. There was the fourth installment for the IU special contract, that was $132,691.46. Please note there's a capital reserve payment, that was the payment number 1 for the Avis project. Other than that, everything else was pretty normal. May is a three-pay month, so I'm expecting a little bit higher amounts for May. The 31st is our third pay, so some of that might get pushed over in the beginning of June.
Any questions or concerns? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say aye. Motion passes. Moving on to communications, Dr. Ulmer.
I have nothing under communications.
Okay. Under the president's report, we had an executive session prior to the meeting tonight for legal and personnel. Moving on to the intermediate unit report, Jesse.
The only thing I have to say is that the meeting we had our ambassadorship program where we met the ambassadors and like the rest of us in high youth programs on time, that there are, if you know anybody that has a child to an adult under 21 that bicycle special needs, IU has these amazing bikes that are for their size, and once they grow out of them, they can turn it in for another bike for their size moving up. And those programs are available on summer and rail, so you don't have to be in the homeschool, be in cyber school, whatever, it doesn't matter, it's just your requirement is age. I think the income in the household is like under 100 and, I think it's like 100, you have to look at, it'll help you qualify for the also, and it may just, the section is very high, so almost anybody qualifies. That's all I have.
Thank you. Student representative report, Kate.
Hi everyone, I'm Kate Butzler, and I just wanted to give a huge shout out to the school board for letting me be a part of all the meetings as a student school board representative. This year has been awesome and I really appreciate it. Since this will be my last meeting until August, I wanted to give you all a quick update on the recent activities and accomplishments of our clubs and teams at the high school. Renaissance Club partnered with Student Council to host A-Day on April 26th, which was a great success. They worked with teachers to provide various activities that students could choose to participate in during the morning time, and the high school ended the afternoon with a talent show. Student Council has been ending the year celebrating the outstanding building staff for Secretary's Day, School Principal Day, and Teacher Appreciation. On May 17th, Student Council hosted a breakfast that honors the 20 students who have been selected as Student of the Month from September through June. Jersey Shore High School musical and drama students performed for the Community Theater League's Ray of Light Awards on Saturday, May 18th at the Community Arts Center in Williamsport. Students Jocelyn Cunningham and Jack Fetzer have been nominated for their musical performances, and Dan Yankees and Laurel Deemers, Joey Isley, and Jack Fetzer have been nominated for their dramatic performances in The Velvet Cake War. Jersey Shore High School students Cadence Dowd and Phoebe Henry participated in Lycoming College's Bach Experience Honor Choir in mid-April.
Key Club had many recent events. They volunteered to pack boxes at the new Love Center on several occasions. They had 3 events with JSC life skills classes. They had Valentine's Day, Easter activities, the field day. They volunteered at bocce concession stands and hosted a bingo for the senior center. Youth Development Task Force had a positive affirmation week during January. They had a compliment card week in February. YDTF organized a Denim Day, and YDTF's final activity of the year will be Kicking It with the Cops to promote a strong relationship between our youth and our local SROs. The Red Cross Club had 3 successful drives this year. 91 pints of blood were collected. This is the highest amount of the high school has collected in a school year. The National English Honor Society concluded the year with a successful Read Across America week that encompassed all 3 elementary schools. The students taught STEAM and literacy concepts while fostering a love for reading. Additionally, the juniors and seniors participated in the annual induction and courting ceremony. The National Honor Society supported the Women's and Children's Center of Williamsport this spring. They were able to supply victims of domestic violence with hygiene necessities to ease their transition into the center. In athletics, varsity track and field districts were held Thursday and Saturday last week. Special recognition goes out to Olivia Spots for winning the discus and advancing to the state meet this coming weekend. Also, Zach Kendall not only qualified for the state meet in the 300 hurdles, but also broke our school record from 2005. And Anna Sick, whose time of 59.43 in the 400-meter dash broke our school record from 1987. That is the second oldest record at Jersey Shore. Baseball earned a playoff bid for the first time since 2018. Softball is continuing their great season. They will play for the district championship Thursday at Elm Park. Boys tennis doubles teams won the first round of districts. 7 seniors signed college commitment letters to continue their athletic careers, and Peyton Dincher was named Miss PA Basketball's 2024 Most Promising Underclassman. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the superintendent's report, Dr. Ulmer.
I'm going to start by recognizing Mr. Dersham and his FBLA students. While he's coming to the podium and getting set up, I do have on the agenda a copy of the updated middle school principal job description. It's typical when we're replacing a position, we look at the job description. There were a few updates, but they're highlighted. This is not on there for vote, it's on there for presentation. If you have questions after the meeting, let me know or send me an email, and now I'll turn it over to Mr. Dersham.
All right, thank you, everybody. School board, administration, community, thanks for having us here tonight. It's not uncommon when I get in a room to do a little icebreaker. So what I'd like for you to do, turn to the person to the left and say, "You're awesome tonight." Okay, on 3. 1,
You're
2,
awesome.
3.
Your left is over there.
We're looking at your person. We're looking.
Just a couple of quick announcements before I turn it over to this awesome leadership team of officers this year. I do want to recognize we have a special guest FBLA member in attendance, Trinity Bilby. She'll be representing Jersey Shore FBLA High School at Nationals this year in Orlando, Florida. So if we can give Trinity a little. And then real quick, actually just on Friday, I received this in the mail. We're pretty fortunate here in Jersey Shore to be recognized as a FBLA Gold Champion chapter this year. So we're one of a very few high schools actually in the United States that are awarded the Gold Champion chapter. And of course the students will talk briefly about that to come. So without further ado, here's our FBLA officer team.
Okay, so I'm Jocelyn McCracken. I'm the president.
I'm Chloe Allison. I'm the community service manager.
I'm Melissa Straub, and I kind of just fill in as needed anywhere they need me.
And I'm Matt Fravel. I'm the reporter for FBLA.
Okay, so today we're going to give you a brief overview of everything that we've been doing throughout the year.
So our chapter is made up of 63 members. That includes 13 freshmen, 10 sophomores, 16 juniors, and 24 seniors, with a team of 10 officers.
And now we're going to talk about some of the trips that we have gone on this year. So the first one that we went on was the state leadership workshop. This was at Kalahari. This was with a selected group of students that were part of the officer team and some upcoming underclassmen that will be a part of the officer team in the future. So this workshop offered our officer team building opportunities, and they also were about financial and marketing, and they also helped us build our skills to be good business leaders. The mission was to get chapter leaders inspired for the year, kind of gave us some ideas about our community service events. We were able to network with other students that were also in officer positions, and we were able to go to the water park. They also had a Special Olympics basket raffle to raise money for our state community service project. And then we also did the chapter Olympics, so like we worked together to compete against other chapters, and this built some team bonding.
All right, and then our next trip, we went to Penn College for regionals, and this is where they announce who placed and goes on to states. So we took 42 members competed in test or public speaking events. 25 of those members placed, and then Mr. Dersham also hosted a workshop with one of his friends, and it was titled The Power of Business.
Our most recent conference that we went to was our state leadership conference at Hershey Lodge. 19 members attended. 4 members placed. Network design was 2nd place. Intro to business communications was 3rd place. Journalism in 10th place. And then we have an opening and closing ceremony in the Giant Center, which is in the bottom picture. And then we have several workshops like career, resume builder, college bound workshops that will help us for the future. And then activities, which were going to the food trucks, karaoke and photo booths, Hershey Park / Chocolate World, and outlets. And just lots of fun.
So this year we did a lot for community service. Our first slide would be on our vision. So a member of our senior class, Caleb Latimer, was diagnosed with cancer earlier last year, and as a chapter, our vision was to support and boost the family spirit, as well as relieve some financial burden and medical expenses of the family. And overall, our mission was to gain chapter and community involvement and raise awareness of the situation.
So some of the projects that we did for the Caring for Caleb community service project, the first thing that we did was a faculty car wash. So we did this on an in-service day, so the students weren't there, so we came in and we washed the faculty's cars that wanted it, and we also offered different cleaning packages for our teachers, and we also accepted donations. And then our second thing that we did was our breakfast wrap sale at the Shore Diner. Some of you guys might have stopped by. And we partnered with the Shore Diner and we sold on the roadside. And we sold over 150 wraps, and all of the proceeds went to the Latimer family. Our third one was flamingo flocking. So we placed plastic flamingos in yards around town, and we offered a variety of package deals for them to purchase. And all of that money also went to Caleb Latimer and his family.
In addition to our community service project, there was also a lot of volunteer opportunities for our members. So our first one was during Christmas time. So 2 of our members, Lucy Stevenson and Zara Del Rosario. Lucy is the one on the right, and then Zara's on the left. They went down to the YWCA, and they just helped set up, helped Santa, and they handed out gifts to the kids.
And we also had our 7th and 8th grade tours, and it was our CTE tour, so they went all around the school and looked at all our CTE programs. And it took a lot of planning, and we had to schedule with the guidance counselors. There were business CTE activities. In particular was crazy product advertising, and then we did a spaghetti tower also. And then we recruited several 8th graders for when they come up to the high school.
So our second time around with the breakfast wraps, part 2 was a huge success. We sold about 165 wraps, and we raised plenty of money that we're going to use for plenty of FBLA expenses, including next year's trip to to Kalahari for the State Leadership Conference.
So through FBLA, we've had many opportunities and connections that we were able to have this year. One of the big ones that we had was our Chamber of Commerce. Actually, at our high school, we were able to do a luncheon with them, and we got to network, and our officer team got to give a presentation. It was an educational experience on professional dining because our students that were in the culinary class were able to serve us, and we got to present about our chapter fundraisers and community service project and inform them of what was going on this year.
In addition to this, we also did a freshman member recruitment presentation. So we met with all the business teachers and found out when they had freshman classes, just kind of reach out, get a lot of people involved who were freshmen. So we did an icebreaker activity as well as a presentation just to get them involved and interested in FBLA. And then we also gave out applications to new members, and volunteers that did the presentations kind of just gave their personal testimony, said why they chose FBLA, why they're in it, and what they love about it.
And then we also had FBLA week where we picked out fun themes throughout the week. Some of them consisted of themes for each day, ice cream social meetings, and announcements for each day, and then the picture just shows what we did for a whole week.
In addition to FBLA week, we also did the county commissioners. We went down to their office and they signed a proclamation declaring that February 11th through 17th was National FBLA week in Lycoming County. And if you look on the right, that is the proclamation they signed for us, and then there's a photo in the building.
So after the county commissioners meeting, we all did a team bonding activity, and we went and we were painted together. We each did a piece, and it was a good team bonding activity, and what the picture that you see is actually hanging in our hallways for people to learn more about FBLA and learn the meaning behind it.
So for our chapter achievements, one main one that we're very proud of is our Business Honor Society, which we were able to induct 3 members this year, including Chloe Allison, Reese Anderson, and Alyssa Straub. Yeah, it was a privilege to be able to induct students as
Okay, and then for our Williamsport Chamber of Commerce, we had scholarship winners. 3 seniors won. Our first place was Alyssa Straub, our second place was Spencer Bryan, and our third place was Chloe Allison. And then we have an awards dinner on May 23rd at the Gamble Farm Inn, which is this Wednesday.
And as Mr. Dersham showed you, that gold seal was a combination of all of these things. So for Champion Chapter, they kind of just asked different tasks of us throughout the year to kind of make sure that our chapter was on top of our activities. So I'll just read some of the challenges for us. So one was Summer Starter. So that was kind of just getting an officer team ready, planning out what you're going to do for the year, as well as Shaping Success. So that's kind of just making sure your officer teams know what they're doing, T-shirts, service projects, just having all that planning ready. In addition to CTE Celebration, so that's kind of just celebrating your CTE program, and FBLA Week. There was a lot of stuff involved for that we had to submit. And then the last one was Service Season, so this dealt with our chapter community service project, and that was just like making sure we did fundraisers for it, documenting photos of what we did. And so all of these we submitted, and I think you had to have 6,000 points to get gold. So there was only, I think it was about 20 chapters in Pennsylvania that actually got gold this year. Thank you for all your support. Thank you for having us.
Last on my report, I want to give the board an update on the Capital Campaign Committee and what they've been working on. We have been working behind the scenes to create a web presence, looking for a way to keep track of our donors in a database, keeping the priority projects of the campaign quotes up to date so we know where we're going. We did recently meet and work through the advertising banner process. We do at some point want to have a conversation with the board about commitment level from the board moving forward in funding projects that we will be supporting. And the committee is talking or beginning to plan for a kickoff event that will take place in the fall. Mrs. Calhoun or Mr. McDonald, do you have anything you want to add? Thank you. That's my report.
Thank you, Dr. Almer. Before I open courtesy of the floor, I just want to remind the public that this will be on agenda items only. So I have several people here that I know have signed up and would like to speak, and you have listed, you would like to address buildings and grounds underneath that section. But there's no actual action items being taken tonight, meaning there's no vote in that particular section. So those of you that have actually signed up for that, we're just going to move you to the section at the end. You're more than welcome to speak on that. It'll just be at the end of the meeting on that particular courtesy of the floor. Okay? So I'm going to first call Mr. Schweitzer. You had wanted to talk about the tax increase. Could you please state your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes.
Merle Schweitzer, Job's Run Road, Salzburg. As I understand, you're trying to balance the budget and cover the deficit. And one part of this is to raise taxes, 300,000. I suggested rather than to raise 300,000 in taxes, you move 300,000 out of the unassigned fund balance where there's $4 million. And then so that's 300,000, but you need another 600,000. So you have a list of cuts that come up to 600,000. Rather than doing these cuts, go to the end of the reserve, the district-wide reserve, which is $1,600,000. Remove $600,000 from the reserve, and that'll give you your other 600,000 that you need for your 900,000 to cover the deficit. In doing that, the balance of budget of 47 million in revenue and 47 million in expenditures. And then there's one other option that maybe it would work, is to cash in one of the $1 million CDs that would generate about $1 million, and that'll give you your and put that in on the revenue side. That would give you your $900,000 that you need to balance the budget. This idea is for you to think about.
Thank you, Mr. Schweitzer. Next on the list is John Shireman. You have down budget cuts.
Good evening, John Shireman, Region 2. I know the Boyle School Board and the administration want to cut for budget cuts, and I'm all for them. But the one I caution you, the administration, I would like to see withdrawn or the board voted down, is the $30,000 cut down to 2 crossing guards. I live on the corner of Mount Pleasant and Locust, and I see what goes on with those guards for the last 20 years. Locust Street is not a street that you want to cut crossing guards from. Anybody that wants to do that, I invite them to come up and sit in the afternoon under a shade tree on my property. I'll supply the chairs to see what these guards do. I've seen one guard get almost hit. I've seen guards numerous times get the one-fingered salute and other things, and one almost get hit. And in the last 2 weeks here with the one-man corner, I have seen 2 children almost get hit because one's reading a book and steps out and doesn't see the person turning. Thank God the person seen it. And tonight, student goes past my place looking at a book, never bothered with it. The other thing is, I am all for school cuts here with everything because we have to do something to balance the budget. And I'm going to give everybody a quick math lesson here. For the junior high school, it's $23 million. When they give that estimate, the estimate was only good for that day. Building expenses, construction expenses increase 5% every year. So in 1 year, that means you can tack $1.17 million onto that $23 million. Okay? If you delay for 1 year, for every day you delay doing something with that school, what it costs the taxpayers $2,750 with it. If my friend Harry Miller was here, who I served with, we reintroduced the motion to close Nipponose, which I'm in favor of doing in closing Salisbury, because it brings the students back to safety and everything else. Harry would have said, I'm with it, and he would have been here and said, that's what I say too. That was a late, great man with it. And to give people to know what senior citizens go and the reduction in income that they have when their spouses die, I went through it. Cost me $45,000 out of my own pockets to pay for my wife after 5 months of dying with cancer with it and that. And you have to make a lot of cuts with things, and you're down considerably on your income. And there's a lot of senior citizens that are like me that you don't realize it till you get there, that they have to make a lot of cuts, and I've done a lot of cuts. I'm lucky maybe I didn't lose my house if I was paying $5,000 a month like I did for 5 months. And that's the strain that a lot of senior citizens are under in this area, and they can't afford no more tax increases. It's time for the people of this borough and start doing what Hunt said. Cut Salisbury, period. This has been put down the road too dang long. Went through it, it's a hard decision to make, but you people have got to do something, because basically the building committee meeting, you were told that this district has no money.
Mr. Shireman, your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Shireman, I just want to gently remind you, if you want to speak about something on the agenda items that are action items, the items we're going to vote on, yep, just need to be at this particular one. Thank you. Next is Justin Wall. I'm assuming you would like to speak on finance. You got it, no problem.
Anthony Township. One, I wanted to welcome the board, especially the new board, members of the Republican Committee who had recently run. I encourage you to represent those constituents that I know you spoke to that hold you're coming in without an agenda. They trust you to do that. It's not about me. It's not about the 10 people that show up here each week. But you did speak to those people, and though they want you to be fiscally responsible, they also shared with you a great care about the education of the kids in the schools. In Region 3, voters were told, including my father, that the school closure issue was passed, it was voted on, it's not an issue with this election. Voters heard Mr. Ulmer encourage the board to move on. That was the makeup of the last election. I encourage you not to come in and follow an agenda that's going to strictly move to close schools, but give yourself a fiscal year to see how the budgetary process works out. I emailed you a couple of things that should be in your inbox, and that's basically this. I've been here a long time. If you go back to 2017, we were looking at fund balance going from $6.5 million projected to nothing, and we needed to close schools and this and that. We get to 2000, the end of that, again, we're presented with a $6.5 million fund balance, but it's going to go to zero. That's 2 times. We fast forward till now, fund balance is 4, 6, 8, 14, depending on what's classified in that fund balance. And again, we're told it's going to go to zero. My point is there is a difference between what's projected and what's realized. And as new board members, all I ask is that you take the time to go through a budgetary cycle to get a feel for that before you do anything too drastic. Because when you look at merely a projection that's handed to you, it can look dire until you go through that process to get a feel for that. Now, as for finance and for taxes, the community really sometimes puts a lot of heat on you and that the taxes are continually being raised. But the presentation that I saw the district give was that there was only one tax increase in the past 4 years at 1.1%. Is that inaccurate, or I was struggling to see your screen. That's not been posted, but from what I could tell, there was one tax increase in the last 3 years, 4 years.
You're
Yes.
correct.
And then in periods, there are also a rebalancing, which means the district actually ends up with less at times. So the average net, when I look at your presentation, Lycoming County was a 0.5% increase over 4 years. Clinton County, 0.1% in 4 years. These are years with 8%, 5% inflation. So my point is that you as a board are fiscally responsible, and it's not year after year of tax increase, right? So give yourself some credit. You manage finances well. Give yourself, please, a fiscal year to see how that turns out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. Next is Fred Packard. Sir, before you get started, can you just identify what agenda item you'd like to speak on here?
Well, what I want to speak on is not on the agenda.
Okay, then you will have to wait till the end of the meeting, and then you will be allowed your 3 minutes. Yep.
Fine.
Thank you very much for understanding. I think the rest of the people that have signed up were about buildings and grounds, except for the last one is Anne Marie Furman. Can you state your name and address, please, and you will have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Anne Marie Furman, Watsontown. I stand in front of you this evening to state that I take offense to some of the statements made during the last Building and Grounds meeting related to taxes. A few of the statements were, people aren't paying more taxes. I also don't own a $300,000 house. Maybe that's the issue. I don't live above your means. That's on them. They're going to have to figure out how to pay for their taxes. Let me assure you, my husband and I do live within our means, and we have a house valued at nearly $300,000. The value of one's home doesn't mean that we should or could pay for more taxes. We have always been and still are frugal with our money. We have worked very hard and sacrificed for what we have. Why should we be punished for working hard? I believe that there are many families in this district as well that have a similar story to mine and my husband's, of working hard and sacrificing. And I believe those families would also be equally offended for the remarks that were made. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Furman. Next, we will move on to personnel. Approving items A through J. May I have a motion, please?
I make the motion.
I will need a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Thomas. Any questions or concerns? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. There is nothing under curriculum and instruction. Moving on to buildings and grounds. There will be an update from the committee chair, Mr. Brungard.
Okay, we had our last, excuse me, our last meeting, May 13th, last Monday. A couple of things we discussed. We discussed the athletic facilities, and we decided to put that on hold until we got an update from Dr. Omer and Mr. Wall. And I didn't add this, but I'd like to add this now. I did sit in on the wrestling applicants, and their main concern was the practice facilities. So they did have a concern about the practice facilities there. They did bring that up. We also discussed selling of the building lots at both Avis and Sal. And I think Mr. Wall was going to, I see he's not here tonight, it's going to take a little time. We didn't know whether we could subdivide. I think they're both in different boroughs or areas. So we didn't know whether we could subdivide and sell off an acre lot, 2 acre lots, or if we might have to keep them as one total lot. So he's checking on that, and will get back to us on that. We also discussed the prioritized capital projects that Dr. Armour and Mr. Wall presented to us. And I think a lot of these projects that were prioritized, or they may be funded by a grant that Dr. Armour is applying for at the present time. So we're going to have to put a hold on that. We also discussed the funding of our assets, which were presented by SiteLogic in the fall of 2023. These assets included a facility study about the Jersey Shore Middle School, which amounted to like $20 million in repairs. Avis Elementary was $5.7 million. Salisbury was $16.6 million. So I'm going to read, we have a letter here from SiteLogic, which is the company that's overseeing or made the recommendations of these projects here. They're overseeing this, and I firmly believe that they are kind of concerned about the direction that this board is taken. I'm not going to read the whole letter, but this is from Wayne Brocart. He is a senior business consultant with SiteLogic. It says, as boards change, however, we would be remiss if not recommending that the district revisit the 2023 facility summary, because boards change. The study referenced more than $13 million. One report I have is $16 million of anticipated work needed at Salisbury within the next 5 years. 13 to 16 million needed at that school, and a potential for millions more shortly thereafter. This in conjunction with more than $23 million worth of identified needs at the middle school over the same 5-year period. This may push the district into debt service and millage increases that could be avoided by maintaining less buildings through increased operational efficiency, as evidenced by the Hunt study. So a couple of the main points here is the dollar amounts, 13 to 16. Middle school, we have no middle school. Other than the one that we have no other school there. The increase in the millage here by maintaining less operating expenses. Let me, Mr. Brocart, I believe, at the last meeting that we had last week, and these are his words, and they're not verbatim, but he basically said that SiteLogic is not in the business of closing schools, but it would be in the best interest of this school district to close Salisbury and put the money that we could save, $16 million in repairs that's needed there, into the middle school that needs the majority of the repairs. So that's basically all I have. And again, this came from a professional consulting firm that this previous board has hired last year. So I mean, we're getting a summary here from some professional company on what to do. So that's all I have basically on that. And anything else?
Do any of the other committee members have anything they would like to say or add to that report?
Not at this time.
I have one last thing to add. I forgot the main thing here. I would, due to this report here and the site logic report and the numbers that we're looking at, I would like to ask the board president, Dr. Omer, to set a date for the hearing, the closing of Salisbury Elementary at the nearest, earliest convenience that we could. Like to explain what the hearing is, or do we need to do that, or?
Do you want to answer what that looks like? So the board has a picture of the process?
I'm assuming a lot of you, at least if you weren't here on the board, but you've been in the audience or you have seen what the hearing process looks like. And so the school code does require a hearing to have occurred for consideration of the closing of any building. Before you can actually vote on that, you actually have to have a cooling off period, as they call it, essentially. And I believe it's 60 days you have to wait for that to happen before you can actually take an official vote.
Is it we'll have to research 60 or 90.
I have to double check, yeah. Sorry, like I said, I wasn't prepared for that discussion. So it's either 60 or 90. I'll verify that for the board and I'll outline the exact process to make sure that we don't miss any steps if that's the direction the board is going to go in. But again, the hearing process is the initial phase that you have to do to start that process.
So there's no, for the board here, there's no voting at a hearing?
No.
Okay.
It's just presenting the facts?
No, the hearing is only intended to present the findings, the reasons for considering a closure, an opportunity for the board to have discussion amongst themselves so that the public can hear what is going on as their consideration for that process.
Thank you, Mr. Brungard. Moving on to finance. I'm going to ask for a motion for A through C, and A will be roll called. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Second.
We will do item A first. Are there any questions or concerns before we roll call item A?
I have a question on, we're talking about A,
Yep.
1.83% tax increase. Mr. Enders, I'm just looking at your budget here a little bit. We have a $982,000, roughly $983,000 deficit. If we take Dr. Omer's recommendations last week, at the previous meeting, 2 weeks ago, that amounted to what, like 300? Could you give us an updated deficit there? That was like 300 and some thousand. So we should be down around 600,000,
You're right now down to about 415.
415. How did we arrive at that?
Between Dr. Ulmer's cuts, I did have an update to special ed agreement you're hopefully about to approve. So those couple of changes have increased the deficit down to about $415,000.
Okay, I know earlier in the year you had talked about maybe some the charter schools, maybe something being done with them through the state or something, getting a reimbursement somehow, or
That is in
not
the
funding
budget.
it? That's in there already?
Yeah, the state is proposed to cap the tuition rate to the cyber charter schools to $8,000 per student per year.
Okay, how, 415,000, how are we gonna make that up? I assume nobody's come up with any recommendations for cuts or anything. Are we gonna take it out of the fund balance? Is that
At
what
that
we're
point in
doing?
time, we would take that out of, we would go into the budget, go into the year with the budget deficit and with the plan to take it out of fund balance. The board does have a couple of committed fund balances of just shy of $2.8 million for Peasers and $850,000 for health insurance. And you also have approximate $4 million unassigned fund balance, so.
Okay, and how much will 1.83% money-wise generate?
Just shy of $72,000.
Not a lot, is it? I'm just, I don't know what, no, this is not going to be final,
Yes.
or is it?
No,
We
this
set this
would be-
tonight, is it gonna be final? We have, in other words, you have to the end of June.
You would, what this will do is this will provide us direction on creation of the tax resolution, the homestead farmstead, and the final budget, which will be on the June 10th agenda.
Okay, I was gonna say that maybe you're.
But your 1.83 is going to be what it's going to be. If we vote on this, this is what it'll be. That won't change.
If you ratify it, that's how I will calculate it, yes, the final budget.
Okay. I was thinking last couple of days here that maybe you're generating 1.83%. It's a minimal amount, but maybe because we have no monies and we have all these capital projects coming up that it might, but it's ludicrous because it's not gonna generate that much money to help out our repairs.
You have a projected capital reserve transfer in your budget of approximately $500,000.
Okay.
Essentially, it's gonna come out of your fund balance.
So I asked where that money was being transferred from.
So this is separate from homestead?
Correct, this is separate from the homestead farmstead.
And this is your recommendation?
Yes, this is what Dr. Owen and I recommended at the last board meeting.
Now, the other thing, just so I'm clear, all the other items that you recommended to cut, they're going to be cut or?
They were taken out of the budget number that he just gave.
Okay, so I just want to be clear that was done, but this still leaves us not at the amount that we need to be, correct? Like, we still need, we still need to do more.
Yeah, we'll need to keep an eye on our finances. We will do that. We did it this year.
Right.
Keep an eye on revenue, and we'll keep an eye on the expenditures. But I'm comfortable going into the year with a deficit of $416,000.
And the reason we didn't
raise taxes for 2 years was because of COVID, correct?
There were some of, yes, in the year, in 2020, going into the 2021 budget, yes, the board had, I believe, made a decision to hold the line and do not raise taxes in COVID. I believe they went up in 21, 22, then 22, 23, and 23, 24. The decision just was not to raise taxes.
I'm just, the only reason I'm saying, we didn't, the board didn't decide to cut taxes because of you know, a gift to the community. Because it was, you know, 2 years where most people weren't working or they had their kids at home and it was a struggle, is what I'm saying. So.
I have a
Ben, here's,
question.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Have we considered when the reassessment goes into effect in a couple of years, going to be a reassessment, everybody's property's probably going to go be assessed much higher than what it is now. So whatever we do now is going to be magnified by a lot. I mean, has that been considered?
I would only caution, Mr. Furman, a reassessment is not meant to generate income or tax revenue for the districts. If you've seen any of those presentations at the county level, the reassessment is actually, they have to rebalance kind of everything. And so once the reassessment is done, they will actually have to look at the tax rates across all of the, you as a school district, the county, the municipalities, and rebalance their actual tax rate so that there's only a minimum percentage of increase over what the reassessed values of those properties are. And so the estimates are, and there's nothing definitive about this, but generally what they say, the experts that do these, it's about a third of increased revenue, a third decrease in the property values, and about a third stay flatline. But you are, the amount that you can increase your actual tax rate, tax base is very small. It's a very small percentage. So again, just because that reassessment happens, your tax rate will not stay the same. Ben and his team will have to go through and look at what the tax revenue was prior to that reassessment, what it was after, and then rebalance those tax rates, those millage rates.
I look at it as like a redistribution. Like our collections aren't going to significantly increase, but individual people throughout the community may have a different assessed value based on what has happened to their property over time. But in the end, and what I heard Mr. Kenyon say, and that's what I've heard before, is in the end, there's not going to be a huge increase across the county or to each individual taxing authority. We're going to collect virtually the same amount of money. It may be from different people at a different rate based on the reassessment. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
It's like Dr. Ulmer said, it's a rebalancing. And it's to make sure that property values are being accurately assessed based on what their value, fair market value is. Okay, I mean, there's a calculation to determine what the assessed value is, but.
So would I be correct in, I mean, if the millage is what it is, right, it's a known number, it's a given, and the assessed value, let's just say it doubles.
Correct.
Wouldn't the tax value then double?
Because I'll have to adjust the
No,
millage.
because you have to actually adjust the millage rate down, so that way you're not generating any increased tax revenue based on the fact that the property value in the district went up. That's the common misconception with the reassessment is that the millage rates stay the same.
Right. That's what I was
Yeah, I think everybody's thought that that's what happens, is the assessed values of all of the properties within the district and the county will go up, but the millage rate stays the same, and so when that happens, the natural reaction is your tax revenue is going to increase exponentially the same way. So the assessment law, tax assessment laws specifically say, no, that cannot happen. Your purpose for reassessment cannot be to generate additional taxing revenue. So what you have to do is rebalance your millage rate so that way you don't have a windfall. They do allow for a little bit of increase, but that's nominal compared to the overall increase.
Just one last comment here. In other words, if you go with this, for every $100,000 of assessed value, taxpayers are going to see roughly a $33 increase per every $100,000. That's above the threshold of what, 169?
No.
No, that's
the
what-
$100,000 was the number that we talked about at the last meeting. Your number, the $33 number, was any of the non-homestead farmstead properties. I can tell you that a homestead farmstead property, their tax amount will go down about $25 at $100,000.
So the break-even point is 169,000 if you qualify for the homestead farmstead.
Correct.
And what is, all right, you just go by the, okay, I understand.
Well, so at the last meeting, I told you various options.
Yes.
We typically, every year I've been here, bare minimum, I'll say we want to rebalance. So if you rebalance, your deficit is going to go up about $171,000. That's what you need to know, what will happen.
I have three questions. First, how many parcels does the homestead farmstead affect?
47%.
47%.
4,588.
Parcels.
4,500 parcels. Out of how many in our total?
About 9,500, 47% of it.
So that's half. Okay. Then second question, when does West Company become fully taxed again?
I think we're in year 4 or year 2, that 5-year agreement,
So 3 more years until the whole thing becomes on the tax roll?
I believe. It actually post, wait, back up. It's a 5-year agreement, post-construction.
Clarify.
So they have to certify when the construction is. That, Verda sites.
Third question, you have updated the deficit numbers. Has there been any change in the revenue side? Have you gotten any final words?
From the state.
So we're still going on whatever you initially,
We put in what in the government proposal.
Are there any other questions or concerns? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Enders, could you give us a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. Birngard,
At this time, I have to vote no.
Mrs. Calhoun,
No.
Ms. Edwards,
No.
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Mr. Furman,
No.
Mrs. Thomas,
No.
Mrs. Stemler.
Yes.
Motion fails 4-5.
Okay, now we will,
So I guess my question is,
I apologize.
how would we like you to proceed with June 10th meeting? Final budget presentation.
What would the board like to do to give direction to Mr. Enders concerning the final budget?
Dr. Ulmer take another look through the general budget to see if there's anywhere else we can save. I'll give you a brief example. We just heard from these folks tonight. They spent a lot of money traveling. Is there anything, I mean, I know we don't want to cut from the student activities, but is there anywhere else we can look that we perhaps haven't looked? Just a second glance. I know you've done your diligence, but might be worth peeking again, just to see if there's anything else.
The short answer is yes, I can. I started my last presentation with painful and angst, and I'm still dealing with the fallout of people being upset, and so I guess I'll say I can, but I want to make sure the board is going to support it.
I do not.
I mean, that's not going to be popular to tell people that they can't go on trips, for example.
Isn't a lot of that money raised by
They do
themselves?
fundraise, yes. And a lot of our, for example, a lot of our field trips are PTO sponsored. Because you're not putting a lot of money out for that kind of.
Under, maybe I'm reading it wrong, but under travel 580 travel business FBLA state conference, they're asking for $34,620.
Yeah,
Is that
I'm not
not
saying they
budget?
don't.
Is that fundraiser, or is that
No,
budget? It's in the
I
budget.
think it is budgeted, but I don't, I
That's
think
just
they're
one
also
example.
supporting it.
Yeah, I get that. That's just one example. And what they're doing is great, don't get me wrong, but if we've got $500,000, almost, well, 416, I don't know if that included the tax increase, Ben. It's probably higher than that now.
Well, it depends on how you want to go.
Yeah, I mean,
Basically, Mr. McDermott, that came about from the fact that years back, they were funded more than they are now. But along the way, we came in that we would, remember these they said these trips, but they're competitions, they're academic competitions. And we're
and that's
funding.
why I'm just asking the question.
Well, no, I'm just saying, we're funding.
Is there anything we can look at?
We
that
agreed
have?
as a board at the time, the board at the time, because I was on the other side then, agreed to fund through their state competitions. Anything beyond that, like the national competition and that, they had to fund themselves. Part of the reason that I believe that is put there, because that's how we fund our athletics. We fund our athletics through state competitions. I'm just giving you a background of where those numbers come from. And they've changed over time. They come down quite a bit because your regions are now smaller than they used to be.
Excuse me.
Are you looking for a percentage, or are you looking for a no tax increase, or you need a number?
I just need some guidance on how to prepare the final budget. As I said earlier, Ms. Edwards, typically minimum to a rebalancing of the tax rate. That how you want me to prepare the final budget and calculate the homestead farmstead and tax rate. Balance rate.
Mr. Enders, would you be able to possibly give this board some scenarios outside of the, obviously, the real estate tax increase that you did recommend? What would be the options moving forward? I think there's too many new members here to be able to make such a quick decision on their own, not knowing what the options actually are. If there is more than one that you would feel comfortable doing. I know you're asking for us to give you some direction, but I think I'm redirecting that to you to ask us possibly, or help us in a direction that you feel would be best to go. Well, in essence, outside of that, is there anything else?
I would bare minimum tell you to rebalance. Looking at the options I gave you at the last meeting, there were essentially three I gave you. Rebalance, increase to 1%, and increase to 1.83%.
And then there's some you didn't talk about.
Yes.
Ben, can you reiterate what we should expect our deficit to be next year? Was that what the $171,000 would be?
The rebalance.
I guess I'm not, so I just told you it's about 416.
Not for, so once we pass this budget, if we pass with a $415,000 whatever dollar deficit, what would we start 25, 26 with?
Well, you essentially start with that as your deficit. It doesn't go away.
And if I'm looking at your numbers here, you know, if we're looking at 415,000 right now, next year you projected if we did not, our fund balance would be 982, now it's down to 415, but the projection for the next year would be 1.4 million. So if you take that 415, you're roughly looking at a $900,000 deficit, I think is what Kayla was asking, if I go by the fund balance numbers.
Well, there's a.
Somewhat
yes.
in that.
Well, I think she was starting, just starting out before you even start putting all the other stuff into it. She was asking you bare minimum where we start at. That's where you start at. That's how I took your question.
So for example, and I know you probably don't all have this paper in front of you that Ben gave you last week, but if you do, I want you to go there. So in the middle of the paper where he has bolded 1.83%, okay? Sorry, I'll give you a minute. So if you go to 1.83% bolded in the middle of the page, go to the line right above that where it says increase of 1%, is a slight addition to the deficit. Whereas if we rebalance and do nothing, you increase your deficit by 150,000. If you go to 1%, you increase your deficit by 45,000.
Where's that first number you're talking about?
Right here. The bold in the middle of the page is 1.83%. You see that? Go one line up.
Okay.
And then go to the third column in.
Oh, okay. All right.
Where he has, it says increase or decrease to the budget. Does everybody see where that's at? So I guess my question as a next step is, do we want to amend the agenda and vote on rebalancing, or amend the agenda and vote on 1%?
I would like to.
I'd like to go the other way.
Well, I would suggest that somebody make a motion to what needs to be on the agenda to vote on, to give the business manager direction in setting the final budget. You got this paper. So go to the bold 1.83%. Above that is 1%. Next line up, and above that is the rebalance rate. Go to the third column over. And that's the impact to your deficit.
So Ben, I have. You have on your fancy computer what the numbers would actually look like if we did go higher. If we went to 50% of the index, because at 25%, you show a decrease in Clinton County of $3.53, and then Clinton County then hits 0.
What you generate by the millage increase. This is what the budget's going to be. So this is, you generate
I don't care.
72,000 above that.
So, what was your question?
On this paper, you have increase, decrease in taxes. Clinton County at rebalance increased to 1%, increased to 25%. At 25%, which is what you recommended, which is 1.83%, it is a decrease in $3.53. And in Cumming County, it is flat. Do you have numbers to show that increase at 50% of the index? Go on the 169 that's on this paper.
At 169,000, 50% of the index for a homestead farmstead would be $38 for Clinton County and $56 for Lake Cumming County. That would be the homestead farmstead parcel.
So can you divide that for my simple budgetary month-to-month expenditures, what that would be a month?
Clinton County is $3 and basically 25 cents. And for Lake Cumming County, a little shy of $5, $4.75.
And that would generate $331,601. Is that correct?
Correct.
So then we would have a surplus going into, well, our
Have a small
deficit would be diminished.
Let's raise it to 50%.
So are you saying take it to 50%?
I am.
You know what? If you would have closed Salisbury last year, $800,000 savings, and taken his recommendations, we would have a surplus right now, and we wouldn't be looking at a deficit.
That's not true,
Next-
Harry. So don't go
Absolutely
there. That's not true.
Well, then let's set ourselves
You
up
can't
for
just make
success,
arbitrary
Harry,
numbers up.
and do both.
No, that's the numbers were approximately, I'm gonna say. Numbers were discussed last year when you guys were going
You
through
wouldn't-
this closing process.
We did some of that,
then
we have some of that
We got a
cost.
surplus right now. If this hearing goes through and we are able to close the school, which
Then do
we're still
both,
gonna be
Harry.
ahead of the game. Definitely. We're looking at approximately 800,000, and again, I'm getting these numbers from the meetings I heard last year, but somewhere between 600 and $1 million. Savings, overhead that we don't need, we can do without. And you want to raise the taxes yet to 50%?
Absolutely, because I want to
Then
pay
you-
for my children's education. For the teachers that deserve the raises that they get.
$5 a month isn't much.
$5 a month.
All right,
If
ladies,
you need help with $5 a month, I will gladly help you.
we're going to rein this back in.
Please do. Send
Okay.
it bi-weekly.
Absolutely.
Board members, we need to rein our conversation back in and get focused on giving Mr. Enders some direction, which is what he asked for.
Well, I agree with Kayla. That's the direction I'd be given. I think we need to talk a lot more about this. We should have talked more than just one meeting about it. It should be given to us ahead of time. That's what I tried. That's what I've been saying every year.
Well, leaving here this evening without a vote on any direction is not going to
Well, then someone put something out there. Yeah.
Well, Mr. Enders just did. He recommended the rebalancing rate. He recommended the 1%. Did I hear that correctly? You could go to either or.
You can go to either or.
Correct. Is there anything else you would recommend to the board?
No.
And on the rebalance, you're going to add another 170,000 to the deficit, 171,000? Yeah.
Are all of the board members here? Do you totally understand this paper that's in front of you on what was recommended at the rebalancing rate and the 1%? Nope. You do not. Mr. Enders, could you please explain that to Mr. Furman so that he can make a well-informed decision, please?
Okay, so I'm not gonna go into the nitty-gritty of rates getting rebalanced. Just know every year the Commonwealth looks at both counties and says, here's your rebalance rates. Okay? If you go to rebalance, it will be a slight increase to Clinton County's millage rates, 0.0839, and a slight increase to Lycoming County's millage rates, 0.0237. Due to the increase in the homestead farmstead that we got in May, you will collect less from the residents, and that will decrease your tax revenue by approximately $171,000.
So in essence, what you're saying is you're not going to be collecting the same amount of money.
Correct.
Yes.
What we once would have collected, I'll give you rough numbers.
Mm-hmm.
The bill was once a $2,000 bill, it's now a $1,750 bill. And it has nothing to do with the top number, it has everything to do with the exclusion amount that's in there. It's essentially a rebate. The rebate went up by $50. Almost $60.
I basically said no the first time around because I wanted to study a little bit more and learn a little bit more about it. But after looking at this now, I hate to go higher than what the recommendation was first presented. And we do need some monies to offset some of these expenses that we have coming up, but 50% is too high for me. I could go along with the recommended 1% 1.83% now at this time after looking at it a little bit and discussing it.
Ben, can I ask one more question? Does it have to be an even 50%? Does it have to be an even 25%?
No, we've always done that just because, I mean, well, it could be any number you want it to be. We've always used the index as the baseline to narrow down our options.
So you could potentially meet in the middle.
Oh, yeah, you could make it, you could say, tell me 2.5%. Just know what I do is I treat it just like I treat the index. Once one county hits 2.5%, we're done.
Okay, thank you.
So one county might be 2.5%, one county might be, the other county might be 2.43%.
Mr. Brungard?
Yes. I think
Making sure you're,
I'm
making sure you're still
I'm
there.
crunching all these numbers here. I don't have the laptop in
Well-
front of me with all this, but
It's okay. I did hear what you said, and if that's the direction you would like to go, since you already voted no, you can make a motion if you would like for a revote.
And he
But it
voted,
must come
he voted no, so he can make you a motion.
Correct. It must come from you. If
Well,
you would like to
anybody
vote
that said
again,
no.
or if somebody else, that's correct, somebody else who said no, if you would like to revote again on the 1.83 of the index.
do I have to resend the motion since I was on the prevailing
No, you
vote?
would just make one
Make a motion to revote.
to revote.
I make the motion to revote on the 1.83%.
We're gonna vote, you're gonna have to show the vote how it was on the original vote. And there's gonna be the motion.
Vote on the motion. You're saying vote on the motion?
So, yeah, you have to vote on the motion, so you still need a second, but anybody can second now.
Okay. So I have a motion from Mr. Brungard for a revote. Do I have a second from anybody? Does it not matter how you voted the first time? Does anybody want to second that motion?
Second.
Mr. McDonald? Okay. Are there any questions or concerns?
I just think that if, with the discussion, it kind of proves that we have to do something. We need to do something, and nobody wants to raise taxes. I don't think anybody here, well, maybe some of us don't want to. But we have to do something.
All right, hearing nothing else? All those in favor?
No, I want a roll call.
Do you have,
I'm asking for a roll call.
Okay.
That's what we did first.
that's fine. Mr. Enders, could you give us a roll call, please?
This is to approve the
Because
motion.
this is just for the motion.
For the motion to revote.
Oh, sorry.
That's
I
all
can-
right.
I can go there.
No problem. All right, this is just for the motion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
The motion passes, and we will have an official roll call vote on raising the real estate tax 1.83% of the index. Yeah. Okay. Mr. Enders, when you're ready, please.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Brungard?
Yes.
Calhoun?
No.
Edwards?
Yes, because I don't want it to be higher.
McDonald?
Yes.
Peters?
Yes.
Herman?
No.
Thomas?
No.
Emily?
Yes.
Passes.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay. Moving on to item letters B and C, still under finance. We already had a motion and a second. Are there any questions or concerns on letters B and C?
Can I have a clarification on C? This is not any additional money you're asking, it's just a transfer between money we already have.
Correct. He's moving money in his budget.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to miscellaneous. Items to approve, A through F. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns?
I have a concern with letter A, our athletic participation fee of $60. I was under the premise when Mr. Menser started talking to us about this, he wanted to lower participation fee. This has winners and losers. 60% of our students, if we look at the number of students that went out last year, will pay a 50% increase to their participation fee, and 40% of the students will not pay as much. And I don't think that's fair. I think we should have more conversation on it, and we shouldn't be putting our kids in that type of a position. 50% increase is pretty high for those that it affects.
I kind of agree with Mary. I mean, first time around when I saw this here, I said these kids should be playing for free, but if you're gonna set a fee on it, a one-time fee, I'd rather see like a $40 fee for a one-time fee for all sports. You have one sport, 3 sports, whatever, $40 fee for the whole year.
Who made the motion?
Nobody did yet.
Yes, you did, on the whole thing.
Oh, on this.
You can amend that. Didn't you make the motion?
I did. God, it's been a bad night.
Mr. Minster was here and presented what additional information would the board like to see?
Why can't we
It's
just,
just up for discussion. I'm not making.
Yeah, I'm asking, is there additional information you want to see? You gave multiple options. I don't have them all in
but
front of me.
I want the whole picture so that we know who wins and loses. This is not fair to take our single sport athlete and raise their fee 50%. When the start of the conversation, from my understanding, was we need to lower the athletic fee.
He did give a presentation one time, but I missed the part where he came up with a $60 fee. But
Wasn't the part on lowering the fee had to do with kids that played multiple sports, that they would end up paying, like if they did 3 sports, they ended up paying $120, which is a bit high. Or, I think that's why we were looking at the flat fee, is that right?
I'm okay with the $40 because that lowers, it's either the same or lowers it for, you're not paying any additional. Or you do a small $25 a season or something. I don't care, but this to me punishes our kids. That's just my opinion. I'm one person. That's why I said who made the motion, because you could change that.
Any other questions or concerns? I think what we'll do is we're going to just roll call item A. Mr. Enders?
Mr. Allen?
No.
Burgard,
No.
Kelman,
No.
Edwards,
No.
McDonald,
No.
Peters,
No.
Mr. Furman,
No.
Thomas,
No.
Semley,
Yes.
Bills.
All right. Items B, C, D, and F. Are there any questions or concerns on any of these items?
On the petition for the new club, I saw the petition, which I'm fine with the petition, but the other material that goes with that, is that on, who checks that out? The principal, the athletic director, the principal? I mean, they're
principal
supposed
and
to have
myself.
a constitution, all that
Yeah.
other, but that wasn't part of the petition?
No.
Okay, all right.
Dr. Elmer, can you explain E, please?
Which one again?
E?
E. That is a training program to get ready for the marching band season. They will be coming in and working with the kids and the director during band camp. They have that in their budget already. I mean, they didn't budget for this specific item, but the money is already in the budget for next year under the high school budget.
Oh, okay.
This is on the agenda so that you approve it now so they can book the date. They have the money for it, they just want to book it now.
Okay.
So Ben was clarifying, we will release the deposit to secure the dates after approval so that they can get going.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. There is nothing under old business.
Ms. Brown, may I make one comment regarding finance?
Certainly. Yep.
I just want to say, every year we are going to start the budget with a deficit. And we only have so many schools. And it has been shown in the past, when closing a school, there is also a cost associated. So I hope that everyone is aware that you're not going to probably see actual savings right off the bat, if any.
Well, we don't even have that information in front of us.
Oh, yeah, no.
Yes.
Well,
But I'm just looking at this sheet and knowing that we didn't even cover the deficit this year with the potential tax increase. So we are starting next year with the deficit again.
Well, I can't say that that's necessarily going to be the case. I don't know. I think that if that's a question even you, Mr. Enders, can answer from a year-out perspective. Probably not. I don't know. But thank you, Kayla, for your comment. We'll be moving on now to courtesy of the floor. For anyone that would like to address the board, I'm going to start with those that have signed up first, that were on the sheet but weren't able to speak under the buildings and grounds. And the first person here that I have is Justin Wall. Even though I know you spoke once, you're the first man up again if you wanted to speak. Yep, no problem. We can move on to the next one. Maria Gamble. Hi. Are you able to state your name?
My name is Maria Gamble. I live in Waterville, PA. I go to school in Saladaysburg Elementary School, and it's a really fun school, and you get to do lots of exciting things. You can do pig races. I did them today. You get to race a toy pig. It's really fun.
Well, I'm glad that you're enjoying school.
Thank you. Bye.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming and sharing. You did a great job. Next is Lily Langlois. You can
Brian, he
state
needs
your
to wait till they
name
give their name before he starts.
and address, and you will have 3 minutes.
My name is Dr. Lily Langlois, Cummings Township. I think tonight we've seen a lot. This is a new board, some of you. It's May, 5 months or so. There's a lot to learn, and clearly this job is not easy. It sounds easy, raise taxes, lower taxes. It's clearly not so simple. Nobody wants to raise taxes. But sometimes when prices of everything are going up, you can't just take it in the rear year after year and not pass it on to the consumer. That's just not sustainable. Now, the option that was brought up tonight, and the reason I'm here, and the reason I ran to be a school board director last season was because of closing schools. Clearly, I'm a fan of Saladaysburg. It's rated one of the best in the state of Pennsylvania. Same thing with Avis, and guess what? Nipponos was too. I think 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. JSE, not so much. They have a higher class size, and they have many more students in that building. What did we do last year? What was the decision? We went through this entire procedure a year ago, April 2023. The previous board voted on it. What did Dr. Ulmer say in February or March of last year? Whatever the board votes, this community is going to go forward on that path. So that's why I'm surprised and disappointed that here we are again, going through it all over again. Now you come out here swinging. Some of you, one of you has a legacy of closing schools. Was that why you were asked to run for school board director again? Closing Nipponos in July of 2013. What did that lead? How much money did that save? Just like it was pointed out earlier, taxes have gone up and they have never gone down. Why? Because closing schools is not going to lower your taxes. So what is it going to do? Why do we have a $3 million a year charter school cost? You tell me. We close that school, and they can't, those people in that region can't wait to send their students to Loganton, that charter school. We pay $3 million a year for that. Now, praise the Lord, the state of Pennsylvania is redoing that, and maybe it'll be a little bit lower, and that'll help our budget going forward. But that's what we've been doing. And that charter school, they got a waiting list. My friends down there, they can't even get in the younger grades. So what are we doing? We're going to close the school again? Are we going to? Parents and the community have been fighting this for 20 years. Dr. Ulmer promised our community that we would let this issue rest. This board is, some of you are brand new, and the job is not easy. It's not even a job, it's a volunteer position. So you put in a lot of time and dedication for just a lot of work. Maybe it's going to take some time, some fiscal years, to learn the full suite of activities and not come out swinging because somebody asked you to run to close a school. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Cindy Morse. If you could please state your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes.
My name is Cindy Morse. I live in Linden. I am the
the PTO president at Saldaysburg Elementary. I've been volunteering since my son started there. He's 13 now, so he's in the middle school, doing well, loves it. So I've been volunteering there for, 8 years. I love it. I know the community. I know the families. I know the students. And I think that it's great that you bring in experts on things that you're not familiar with, like closing schools. These are people that advise you. And I think one of the things that you're missing in this is the advisor on how it's going to impact the community of the children and the families of the schools that you close. I'm in the community. I talk to the families. I know the people. And I'm telling you right now that people are not going to stay in this district. There's a lot of talk in Saldaysburg families and communities of looking at charter schools, looking at different options, and you guys need to investigate that fully before you make a responsible and educated decision on closing a whole facility. Look at how people are going to react. Study what might happen and how site logic says you're going to save this much money because you did this study. You're missing a whole nother study that is going to show you you're going to lose money as well. And for you to make an educated decision, you need to know what you might gain and what you might lose. So I'm pleading that you take your time in closing a facility to gather all the information to make a responsible and educated decision. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's Jason. Maybe not.
That's what it looks like to me.
Jason, and your last name, E-Y-O? Okay, maybe he's not here this evening or left. Okay, back to Justin Wall, unless you want to go at the end. Mr. Wall?
Justin Wall, Anthony Township. Very quick motion to close Saldaysburg, and it's based on a Buildings and Ground Committee that met twice. The number reference I'm really curious about, 16.6 million in 5 years. I'm looking at a Hunt study from January 2022, and the number is 11 million. So is that inflation? Was it an adjustment? Or anybody from Buildings and Grounds? I know it's. Anyways, I'm looking right at it, and it says priority 1 list here is 4 million, and priority 2 list was 1 million, for a total of 5.5 million. There's another large 5 million piece there that was if you closed Avis and you build a gymnasium at Saldaysburg and you build classrooms at Saldaysburg. I'm just wondering, is that how you arrive at 11 million and then somehow 16.5 million? Because I'm looking at the Hunt study and it's not. And we got a motion to go to a closure hearing. And I'm looking at the Hunt study, and I don't see what the Buildings and Ground president is referring to, and that's really alarming. To me, that screams agenda, right? We need to slow that down. And I urge the Republican committee who came in here, and you know you're in full grasp of this district. You know that the next election goes through you. You are in control of this district. I urge you to slow down, make it through a fiscal cycle, see the budget, because when you look back at budgetary numbers, sometimes the projected revenue does not match the actual at the end of the year. Sometimes the expected expenditures do not actually meet the actualized number. And so, for instance, in the past couple of years, you may have had expenditures that were $2 million difference, but your revenues also came in at $4 million difference, which might be the emails I sent you when you look at 3 cycles now of projected fund balance deficits. From 17 to 20, you're going to run a deficit of the fund balance. It didn't happen. Start at 20 again, 6.5 million to nothing. Fund balance didn't happen. And here we are now, again, projecting to go from the fund balance to nothing, and they want you to close the school. Am I incorrect that 6.5 million or the 16.5 million is an error? Because I have priority 1 and 2 at $5 million. That's $10 million less. And I got to tell you, a lot of those projects don't need to be done in 5 years. I've been in the classroom without floor for 6 years, and that's not an emergency. We don't need to replace every ceiling tile in a school in the next 5 years. In that number is $22,000 to replace the foundation for a sign. You have 2 signs. You don't need the foundation in the other sign. That's the average cost for a 1,000 square foot house foundation. $36,000 to replace a culvert pipe. So don't put those numbers in front of the public and pretend that that's a driving force that you need to do. That's disingenuous at best and oversight at worst. If somebody could respond to me through email perhaps and let me know, am I in error at the 16.5 million, or is that a misrepresentation from the committee? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wall.
Mr.
Is there a problem?
No, you're free to come to the podium.
Thank you.
Excuse me 1 second.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just going to remind you, he had his turn to speak.
Okay, so he did, didn't he?
He signed, what I was going to remind you, if there's no one else, he did sign up to speak, and you asked him to come.
Yes, Fred Packard. I apologize.
He can speak, I just wanted to
Are you
make
sure you don't mind?
I told him I'd say something.
Thank you. Mr. Packard, it's your turn to speak. Thank you for being patient and waiting.
And now,
If you could state your name and address, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
My
Thank
name
you.
is Fred Packard. I live in Avis. I was a employee of the school district for 5 years. Okay. This last year, there was an incident. It took 3 months for me to get the videos from the incident, because the night that it happened, there were some things that happened that I didn't understand. By using the videos, I now understand what happened that night. Okay. I don't know if the school board has seen those videos or not, but I was criminally charged at 61 years old for the first time in my life. The student, well, wasn't a student because he had been expelled, has a criminal record at the age of 15. Okay. What this has done to my life is put a target on my back, because the district justice told me at my arraignment hearing that I now have death threats against me. This has put me in danger. This has put others that live in my household in danger, which include my 13-year-old son. This has cost me money in attorney's fees. I have lost the money from the job that I held. There's a lot of volunteer work that I was doing. It has ruined my reputation. I had to give up every volunteer job that I had. Fire police with 2 fire departments. I worked with Jersey Shore Town Meeting, scheduling the music for the 4th of July celebration. And I wrote to the DAV. Because of the allegations made against me, my life has been ruined. I don't know. I am a veteran. I'm a disabled veteran. And I would ask anybody here if you know the life expectancy of a soldier today, because I can tell you it's 3 deployments. And the reason for that is, on the first deployment, that soldier will keep his head moving back and forth because he doesn't know what to expect. On the second deployment, he will keep his head moving, but he'll be, I've been here before. On that third deployment, he's going to say, oh, this is easy. I've been here twice. And that complacency is what's going to get him in trouble. So my question is, what is the board now going to do? Because I have my final here that states the Commonwealth lacks sufficient evidence to prove the charges beyond a reasonable doubt, and all charges against me were dismissed after 13 months. So now how do I protect myself and the other members of my household until we can no longer have to watch over our shoulders? My address was put in the newspaper. So anybody that wants can look it up online and find my name and address.
I'm very sorry for the distress that this has caused you. Thank you for coming tonight.
I do, a little bit.
Good evening, board. My name is Matt Craw, Anthony Township. My son's currently attends Salisbury Elementary. I'd love for my daughter to have that same opportunities that they currently have. I have over 20 years of experience in teaching and education. I'm against the closing of Salisbury Elementary School, especially after reconfiguring to create balanced classroom sizes and a better learning environment for all of the district. This was voted on and approved and asked that we as a community move on from this together. The community thought we had moved on and a nail was put in the proverbial coffin. But here we are again, a year later. A new guy has come on and has brought this all about. It's scary that we just had a lengthy discussion with many misunderstandings of the tax increase, many misunderstandings of the own athletic fee that he made a motion for. But we want to jump to a closure of a school, and some speaking didn't do the prep for those votes. How can we trust anyone to do due diligence to this big vote? This is not a vote about money. It's about kids. It's about education. It's about those coming behind us. Not you, not me, those behind us. For those who think taxes won't go up, it's inevitable with inflation. School consolidation, increasing charter school costs, discussions around a new wrestling room, a new athletic complex, etc. Plus the cost that will be necessary to reconfigure and remodel and possible closure. There is always a cost associated with adjusting classrooms and reconfiguring. There's always a cost going forward. Nothing is free. At $114,000 a month to Sugar Valley, which was just stated tonight, how do we not expect that to increase if we close the school? I have a question for Mr. Enders, if he can, I don't know if he can answer this or not. What is the extra projected funds from the PA lawsuit about the school funding system being unconstitutional? Do we have any in the 7-year cycle of the extra funds that's going to be coming out per student? That's still waiting to be settled in courts. Some schools have landed around $1,700, some have landed around $1,200 per student. Charter schools have definitely taken up a large sum of our money, as we've seen. $3 million, that's huge. Have we done anything to see about getting any of those students back? Have we worked on getting that money back? Site Logic has been referenced over and over again. Site Logic is not in the business of education. They're in the business of buildings. Have we asked an educational expert what's best for our kids? Not a building expert. The prior board voted no. We were asked to move on. We thought we did move on. Now we're back here with the same thing still going on. I want to reiterate what Mr. Wall said. I ask you to get a fiscal year under you to have a better understanding of what's going on and what's coming in through the state and through the funds and how it's coming. The projected and what actually comes is always different. So please take that into account. Thank you for your time, and thank you for all you do for our children.
Thank you.
If anybody wants to blame Mr. Brungart, I will stick with it. I am the one who reintroduced, my name's John Sharman, I served on the school board from 2007 to 2013. I reintroduced the motion to close Nipponos. It was the right thing to do and nothing was botched up. And what's forgotten about things is Nipponos could have been sold off, ball fields and everything. The extra time was taken to make sure the community of Nipponos got the ball fields. That school was only 50% capacity, the outdated, open concepts classrooms, most expensive to operate. I heard this same garbage like I've heard from some people in here 13, 14 years ago. Same entire argument. People are afraid of change. Heard it about people from Nippenos. Well, the students suggested fine. We brought those students into the most modern facility we had. It was remodeled to a safe environment where police protection was close, fire protection, and going to the hospital or anything. Any emergency happens, where do the kids from the Salzburg and Avis go? Here, they're under protection. If something happens to one of the schools or whatever, they can be shuffled back and forth. So it is unfair to go after Mr. Broomgarter. Anybody wants to come back, it was me, along with my late friend.
Mr.
Harry
Shireman,
Huber.
make sure you're directing it towards us,
Okay.
please.
It was with my late friend, Mr. Harry Huber, when I introduced this, seconded it, and Mr. Broomgarter will tell you that. And to attack him for coming here to close our schools or whatever is totally unfair, and it's unfair. The big thing that's most in this with everything, 70% of the budget goes to pay for wages. What that amounts to in percentage is about $33 million. And you take that on a 3% basis every year for annual wage increases, you're going to be about $1 million in the hole every year. So you can sit here and you can try to cut anything you want, but you better get wages under control. And for those who went against the administration's about advice with everything, about closing the school and voting in favor of the key teachers' contracts, shame on you. And basically, when it would come to negotiations, the one that was the lead negotiation for the last.
Mr. Shireman, you're not allowed to pick out any particular board member.
I'm not naming anybody.
Okay,
Basically, give the farm away. Thank you.
you're welcome.
You have no right to pick on Mr. Broomgarter, period. Want to blame somebody, blame me.
Thank you, Mr.
Blame
Shireman.
him, Harry.
Thank you, John.
I tell it like it is. I don't like it nowhere under that.
Absolutely. Please state your name and your address, and you will have 3 minutes.
My name is Brandy Crothers. I live in Porter Township. I know that all of you know who I am. I'm here to discuss the, again, potential Saldaysburg closing. After last year's debacle, you guys decided to keep it open, and Dr. Ulmer wanted us to move on past this. This was going to be done. This is done. And here we are going after it again. After you decided to keep the schools and you redistributed the lines, we also know that my family was moved to Saldaysburg amongst 5 other families on my street that did not get moved, but it was intentionally, it was deliberate. We'll just put it that way. And my 7-year-old that I told you was going to have issues for 2 months did not have friends. For 2 months at school, was by herself at recess. I found out 2 months later from my 5th grader that she was at recess by herself, walking around waiting for her to get the overlap. She's now settled in. And now here we are, you are potentially going to make her move again. Children are not like furniture. You don't just pick them up and distribute them wherever you see fit. They have emotions. Things affect them. You are affecting their ability to learn, their ability. Yes, children are resilient and they will adapt, but how much do they have to adapt in such a short time? Because your priority is supposed to be the children. You are here to deal and to make what's best for our children. Yes, you need to worry about the taxes. Yes, I understand that. But your position is first and foremost to these children and what is best for them. picking them up, throwing them wherever you decide, oh, because, oh, well, I don't like this, well, I don't like that. And then just, you know, throwing caution into the wind, you're not caring about the children. And it's very disheartening to see this, that everybody is so concerned about the mighty dollar and not about these children and how they're being affected by your decisions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Steve Helm, Pyatt Township. I really don't know that I have to say too awful much. I've been here many times reminding the board of the decisions that they make and how they compound throughout the years and so on. I'm here to make a couple suggestions. I hear you spitballing about saving some money. We not too long ago outsourced the management of our student busing. We could pull that back in-house. That's $65,000 or $70,000 a year. We, or the board at some point, we were able to work without an assistant superintendent. You know, that, and again, it's not personal, but we could probably see that position eliminated. And we could mothball Saladiesburg and get a feel for what the savings would be until there was a decision made, either close or keep it open. There are certain things that you have available to you that you should maybe consider. However, what you did tonight is you raised taxes, and I think if you read anything that I say, we understand taxes have to go up. I don't think you're not going to be able to create a budget that's going to be manageable without raising taxes from where you are now. But what you didn't do is you didn't plan for next year. You didn't plan for the building renovations that are needed. You don't have a path forward, and realistically, you have some hard decisions to make in order to create that path forward. And it is all about education. I will also remind you that the presenter from SiteLogic is a retired superintendent. So he also has a good background in education. I don't think that he came to his decisions lightly or with some animosity toward buildings. Good luck, and please remember why you're here, and thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you, Mr. Helm.
Wendy Eckerd, Bastrop Township.
I'm sorry, could you just speak up a little?
Wendy Eckerd, Bastrop Township.
Thank you.
After listening to the Building and Grounds meeting held last week, I'm just trying to understand why our district has $42 million in repairs and upgrades needed to our schools. I'm going out on a limb and speculate this is partially because we've put Band-Aids on the issues instead of fixing them. During the meeting, Plan B was presented at the podium to do nothing, instead to just continue to maintain the buildings. After hearing this, I wanted to make sure that this board and the community are aware of a district just west of us that for decades did just this. They just maintained the facilities and just placed Band-Aids on the issues. Because of basically doing nothing for decades, the voters in that district voted whether to approve an $85 million referendum to pay for the renovations. Again, there was an $85 million referendum placed on the ballot in a district up the road from us for voters to vote on. The board cannot afford to do nothing. Tens of thousands of dollars were spent to have a company come in and evaluate our buildings and another company to review that evaluation. Although what they are saying about closing a school is not easy to hear, they are the professionals and their advice should be taken. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amory Furman, Watson Township. Again, during the last meeting, it was stated we seem to only heed the advice we want to from the business manager. What a hypocrisy. How we quickly forget the previous board did not heed the advice of the business manager and advised against passing the teacher's contract. Because this decision of passing the teacher's contract, this board now has to figure out how to cover that current deficit. Doing what is right is not easy. We have good teachers and administrators in this district. They will adapt and help our children to adapt. Change is part of life. Instead of placing anxiety within our children, we need to teach them how to deal with change, how to be financially responsible, that wants are different than needs. A good education does not come from the bricks and mortar that surround our kids. It comes from their parents, teachers, coaches, and administration that teach them, that nurture them, that hold them accountable and guide them. I am asking this board to take the advice of Site Logic. Although it may not be popular with some of the community, the data supports their recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Furman. Okay. Since there isn't anybody else, we're going to adjourn the meeting.